What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about my 6-month review on owning an Audi for the first time. I do have some paperwork to talk about, so let's get this video started. So some of the things that I learned, thankfully, for having a Reddit community that I, continually check and talk with, I was able to learn things beforehand before purchasing an Audi and understanding what I'm getting myself into. And one of those things is expected costs. So when it comes to any luxury vehicle or any vehicle in general, you have to be mindful of how much the cost of maintenance will be. So you may not have factored in tires, an oil change, changing the wiper blades, changing the transmission fluid. We're going to get back to that point in a little bit. And with Audi, a lot of things you cannot get away with, or you'll be looking at $1,000 bill. So, one of the first things I decided to do, because my car was a rental with Enterprise and one of the snow belts of Michigan, I believe so. And so I basically didn't have a service history. The only thing that I know for sure that Enterprise does to their vehicles is oil changes. And just going off the basis of that was not enough for me to feel comfortable driving my car. Even though everything was totally fine with it, it wasn't stuttering or anything like that to that nature, I still wanted to do the scheduled maintenance that was supposed to be done between 10,000 and 40,000 miles. And the first course of action was dealing with my coolant. I was able to look at the coolant reservoir. I was advised that it was low, but it wasn't going lower. Now, a common issue with Audis is the water pump. And the water pump, it may go out 50,000, 40,000, as new as 30,000 miles, in some cases 60,000 miles. Being that I do not have a service history, I couldn't just count out the water pump. But when a water pump is failing, it's pretty evident, as you would see your coolant in the engine bay, or your car would not be able to properly, keep itself regulated in temperature. And so I wasn't experiencing any of those, so I just took it as it is to just top off the coolant. In hindsight, I thought this was going to be an easy process, but it turned out to be a whole week long problem for me. Well, not really a week long, but like 3 to 4 day problem. And upon trying to take the cooling cap off, I incurred my first cost when it came to my Audi. And that was because I needed to get a new coolant cap. For some reason, the cooling caps, they just completely fall apart or snap off from the top part of the reservoir cap. And in my case, it was stuck in there. So thankfully, I had the Redditors and the Audi group to be able to tell me that it's a common issue where part of the cooling cap gets stuck inside the gasket. And that explained why every YouTube video that I looked at, the opening of the reservoir was a totally different process. So I was able to get a new coolant cap. Surprisingly and thankfully, the coolant wasn't overspilling to the point where it could have caused an air bubble, and that air bubble could have caused temperature issues where the coolant may need to be flushed out the system and refilled. Because remember, you need a vacuum when it comes to your coolant, and only coolant should be running through your engine. If it's kind of like trying to breathe underwater. If you try to take a gulp, you're just gonna, breathe in water. But if you take in air, you will start to choke on that air bubble because you're underwater or you're above water. Um, and that, if you understand that scenario. And so basically, I went to the Audi dealership. Thankfully, the cap was just only a $17 cost. I was able to get some coolant as well because it did, pump out coolant and dumped it into the engine bay. I was able to go ahead and refill it, you know, to the halfway mark, and then replace the cap, and everything was cool and dandy from there. Now, the second thing that I ran into was that I wasn't sure whether or not if my transmission fluid was changed. And in hindsight, I'm glad that I went with my gut because it totally made a difference in how the transmission was shifting and performing. Not saying that my car wasn't shifting, smoothly or anything like that, but once I did my transmission fluid, it was like, okay, yeah, the urgency, the smoothness of like butter, it was performing, a lot different than when I first bought it and didn't do the transmission service. And that is part of the 40,000 mile service actually. And I didn't get the car until 47,000 miles. That's the mileage I bought it at. I was able to go ahead and schedule an appointment with an independent German shop. That didn't really go well at all because upon, showing up for my appointment at 9 o'clock in the morning, it wasn't explained to me that they didn't know that they needed a special tool to refill the transmission fluid. So basically, I wasted my whole morning with the German shop.
Bombastic side eye, criminal offensive side eye.
You know, from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m., they were explaining to me that they just couldn't fill it back up and they didn't want to touch it to cause any further problems. So I took my car back. That job would have been a little bit close to $700. But after $45 in Uber fees going back and forth to the German shop, I finally called the dealership instead of texting my advisor because you are assigned a service advisor that you are able to text and ask questions about a quote or anything to that nature. And so I gave him a call, and he actually gave me a quote that was $200 less than what the German independent shop was going to give me. So that was a no brainer in that situation because it was honestly just an annoyance that the German, independent shop was supposed to come in cheaper and they didn't. And then also they didn't have the right tools before my appointment and wanted me to wait a whole extra week until to do my transmission service. So that was a no go. And one of the amenities that come with Audi dealerships, even though you may pay it on the back end when you purchase a car from them or when you go to the service department, their service department allows you to get a free Lyft or Uber to and from the dealership. So if you need a Uber or Lyft to your house or you need it to go somewhere else while you wait for your car to be finished, they will do that completely free. I'm not sure if all Audi dealerships, but at least my local Audi dealership does that. So all in all, that came to just below $500 for that service. And once again, my transmission and everything is just performing a lot more urgent, a lot more smoother, especially now that it's cold and we're in the low 40s to high 30s. Dual clutches, they shift a little bit weird during that time because the oil is the fluid is the transmission fluid is cold, so it has to warm up just like an engine as well. It's not going to perform its best until all the fluids are running through the system at operating temperature. But other than that, Chronos has been completely fine to me, at least. The only next things on the list is the oil change again that's coming up and the spark plugs, and that's pretty much it when it comes to scheduled maintenance. Uh, that I will feel comfortable that I done did everything that I needed to do to make sure everything is fine and in good condition that could possibly fail or anything to that nature. The only other unplanned maintenance that did happen, however, was that I was noticing a squeaking sound from my engine bay every time I turned on my car in the morning. This started about 2 weeks into me owning the car. So when I took it to the Audi dealership, I was like, listen, nothing spells luxury about my car making a Jetson sound basically the whole time, the first 5 minutes of me turning my car on. I don't think that spells luxury. So because my car was still under warranty, they went ahead and investigated. They kept it for about a day and they decided to replace the idler pulley and the serpentine belt as well. And what came with the service as well was that they were able to do a multi-point inspection all over the vehicle, especially when they're about to do a warranty claim. They have to do a full inspection. So it was really a two for one, and also a heaven sent situation because I didn't get the car fully inspected before purchasing it, but I was still going to go to the Audi dealership and pay for it separately. But because the car was still under warranty and they actually needed to get a pretty big service to be done on it, they were able to send me like a 3.5 minute video showing the full underbody of the car and also the wheels, the fluids as well, if anything needed to be topped off or if they noticed anything weird. And now that I think about it, the original reason why I had to go into the dealership was because the check engine light came on the first, you know, 24 hours of me owning the car. Coming to find out in hindsight, the Volkswagen dealership that I purchased it from, they forgot to tighten on the oil cap the correct way. So yeah, there's that. And other than that, everything has been totally fine with the car. I wish to have even more happy miles out of it and just stay on top of maintenance. I will be coming out with a ultimate car buyer's guide and be doing a video on that, on how I purchased my car and how I was able to finalize the decision that, hey, I want to get this Audi. Other than that, I will see you guys next week for next week's video on that ultimate guide. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe, like this video, and I'll see you guys next.